Right, we're going to have the reading in a moment, but before we have that reading, I thought I'd give some context to that reading, and hopefully I won't steal too much of what Evan is going to say, but I hope not. So just to introduce, our reading is going to be from the book of Lamentations in a moment, and Lamentations is not a book that, I don't know, we tend to come across so often. It's a small book, but just to give you an idea of what's of the background to where we are when we arrive at this reading, because the background is really important to understand these things, and that's why having study guides and reading around these things always helps when we're studying God's word. So to give the background, so in the Old Testament, God has rescued the people of Israel from slavery in Egypt. And then he gave them great success in taking the promised land. And the pinnacle of this really was the rule of the great King David and King Solomon. However, sadly, God's people turned away from God, and God split Israel into the north, split the kingdom into Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Now, Israel was conquered in an exile due to their rebellion about 722 BC, and which was really a warning to Judah of what might come. And about 100 years later, well, a bit more than 100 years later, after God had sent many prophets to warn the people, but they didn't sadly listen, they didn't turn back to God, and they thought that Jerusalem was the place where God had his temple. I mean, surely God wouldn't let that city be defeated. And Jerusalem is a pretty formidable place to attack, built as it is, and geographically up. So when the Babylonians turn up in 587 BC and they defeat Jerusalem and they conquer it, it's a blow, not only as a military victory, but a blow to what they think about security of the temple. Now, the people knew that Jerusalem was God's city, and that it had been God that gave the city into their hands. Now, at this point, most of the people were then exiled to Babylon, exiled far, far away, like many other of the conquered people that were conquered by Babylon. And our reading is in the book of Lamentations, where the writer is talking about the grief, the suffering and the pain of being rejected by God because of the sin. But as we're going to read in chapter 3, amid the agony that's being talked about, watch out for the kindling of the light of hope that's in there. Chapter 3 is about the plight of the exile expressed in the experience of one individual. So as we read this now, have this in mind about where we are in history. So Lamentations chapter 3, starting at verse 10. Like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding, he dragged me from the path and mangled me. He left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target for his arrows. He pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughingstock of all my people. They mock me in song all day long. He has filled me with bitter herbs and given me gall to drink. He has broken my teeth with gravel. He has trampled me in the dust. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I hoped from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Let him bury his face in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him offer his cheek to one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. For no one is cast off by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love. For he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to anyone, to crush underfoot all the prisoners of the land, to deny people their rights before the Most High, to deprive them of justice. Would not the Lord see such things? Who can speak and have it happen if the Lord has not decreed it? Is it not from the mouth of the Most High that both calamities and good things come? Why should the living complain when punished for their sins? Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Let us lift up our hearts and our hands to God in heaven and say, we have sinned and rebelled, and you have not forgotten. You have covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You have slain without pity. You have covered yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can get through. You have made us scum and refuse amongst the nations. All our enemies have opened their mouths wide against us. We have suffered terror and pitfalls, ruin and destruction. Streams of tears flow from my eyes because my people are destroyed. Wow, quite a roller coaster of emotions in that reading of both agony and of hope. Before Edmund comes to share the message with us today, we're going to sing the hymn that is today's theme, Great is Thy Faithfulness. And as we sing, let's consider the words that we're singing in the light of what we've just read. So let's stand and sing, Great is Thy Faithfulness.